All right, let's jump right in. Today, we're going on a wild ride through 5,000 years of conflict. We're going to see how military technology hasn't just changed how we fight, it's changed literally everything: our societies, our governments, and the very world we live in.
I mean, just look at this. On one side, you've got a bronze sword. That was a revolution in metallurgy that helped create the first real armies. On the other side, an autonomous drone, a revolution in AI that's changing war as we speak. The tools are worlds apart, right? But the engine driving that change, it's the exact same thing, a massive technological leap.
So, that's the big question we're tackling. How on earth did we get from here to there? How did we go from soldiers standing in a line with swords and shields to a battlefield that is networked, intelligent, and maybe can even think for itself? So, here's how we're going to break this down. We're going to start with the ancient empires, built on iron and, just as importantly, on order. Then we'll see how gunpowder basically blew that world apart. From there, we'll get into the industrial killing machine, then today's networked battlefield, before we peek around the corner at what the future of war might actually look like. Okay, first stop, our journey begins not just with a better weapon, but with a better idea. See, the first great military revolution wasn't just about having stronger metal. It was about the technology of, well, organization. Sure, the early days were definitely driven by hardware. Bronze weapons and war chariots gave some folks a serious edge. But the real game changer, it was the software. Think about the Greek phalanx or the Roman legions. Their power wasn't just in their swords, but in their formations, their discipline. This focus on organization, on systems, from siege engines to the standardized crossbows in China, that was the real innovation. So here's the bottom line. A sharp sword is great, but you know what's truly unstoppable? The ability to organize, supply, and move thousands of soldiers as one disciplined unit. Military engineering and infantry discipline, those were the killer apps that built the great empires of the ancient world. All right, let's fast forward to an invention that didn't just change battles. It literally blew the old world order to pieces. We're talking about gunpowder and how its arrival in Europe spelled the end of the feudal age. Now, gunpowder's impact wasn't immediate. It was invented way back in 9th century China, and it took centuries to make its way along the Silk Road. And even then, it took a while for people to figure out its true power. But by the 15th century, you just couldn't ignore it anymore. Cannons could now smash the stone walls of feudal castles, making that whole system, the knights, the lords, everything, pretty much obsolete. The age of the knight in shining armor was over. And this kicks off an incredible chain reaction. It's what the historian Jeffrey Parker calls the military revolution thesis. It goes like this. New gunpowder weapons pop up. That means you need new kinds of forts and much bigger armies. Those are ridiculously expensive, so you need a strong centralized government that can actually collect enough taxes to pay for it all. And the result? Boom. The modern nation-state is born, forged in the fire and smoke of cannons. Okay, so if gunpowder was a slow-burning fuse, then Industrial Revolution was a detonation. The pace of change just accelerates like crazy. War stops being a contest between armies and becomes a contest between entire economies and factory floors. And it wasn't just one invention. It was a whole new system, firing on all cylinders. Mass production meant you could arm millions of men. Rifles and machine guns made battlefields exponentially more deadly. You could move armies at unbelievable speeds on railways, and you could command them instantly over vast distances with a telegraph. It was a complete and total transformation of war itself. And the result? Well, it was absolutely terrifying. This chart says it all. The lethality of the battlefield didn't just climb, it skyrocketed. The defensive power of the machine gun especially led straight to the brutal stalemate of World War I's trenches, making old tactics completely suicidal. This whole industrial approach to war reached its awful climax in the 20th century, the World Wars. This was the era of total war, where entire nations, including civilians, were part of the war machine. And the speed of technological change was just staggering. In only 30 years, we went from trench warfare and biplanes to blitzkrieg and the atomic bomb. Now, the atomic bomb changed the game yet again. It created this strange new paralysis. The two superpowers could now completely obliterate each other. That was called mutual assured destruction, or fittingly, MAD. All-out war became unthinkable. So conflict didn't stop, it just changed shape.
It moved into the shadows, into new domains. This slide shows that shift perfectly. The Cold War, for all its tension, was a pretty stable two-player game. It was built on nuclear deterrence. But the modern era? It is so much more complex. The battlefield has expanded into cyberspace, and you have all these new players, asymmetric actors, using drones and AI to challenge the big, traditional powers.
And this brings us to the key concept of modern conflict: asymmetric warfare. This is where the old rulebook gets thrown right out the window. It's when a small group with a laptop or a commercial drone can take on a high-tech, conventional military simply by exploiting its weaknesses and refusing to play by its rules. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground. So let's just pause for a second, recap, and really see how each of these technological eras directly shaped a new world order. This table just lays it all out so clearly. You can see a straight line in every single era, connecting a core technology to its world-changing impact. Metal weapons, you get state armies. Engineering, you can build empires. Gunpowder, it forges the nation-state. Industrial machines unleash total war. And today, cyber and AI are creating the networked battlefield. See? Every revolution in warfare is a revolution in human society.
So, that was the past. Where does all this relentless acceleration take us next? What does the future battlefield even look like? Well, the thing is, the next big military revolution isn't coming. It's already happening, and it's being driven by artificial intelligence. AI has the potential to change the very nature of combat by making decisions faster than any human possibly could. And AI is just one piece of this puzzle. We are right on the edge of a future that could have fully autonomous weapons, unhackable quantum communications, the really disturbing potential of biological warfare, and yes, the weaponization of space itself. Any one of these is a massive shift on its own.
And that brings us to our final and maybe most important question. For 5,000 years, no matter how advanced the weapon, a human being was making the critical life or death decisions. But as we step into this new era, we have to ask ourselves, when the battlefield starts to think for itself, what does that mean for all of us? That's the challenge ahead.